Welcome to Explicit Materia GodMode, the Shane and Evan Talk About Video Games show. The show where you get the best opinions from the best non-experts around. Sit back and enjoy the show.
All right. Welcome, folks, to another episode of Explicit Materia GodMode, the podcast where me and Evan nerd out about things that we're into. And today's episode, we're going to go into frickin' Game of Thrones because the finale was last night, and people have opinions. People have opinions.
Sure enough, they do
about the show, especially the last season in general. But first, how you been? I haven't seen you in a while. We haven't spoken in a while. Things have been happening in our lives.
I've been good. I told you I got a PS4. I'm not going to say it was totally so that I could do better at this show exclusively. But the PS4 has brought me the joys of God of War 4, of Horizon Zero Dawn. Got to play Spider-Man. So I feel like we can connect on a level that we never could even before.
Yes.
So.
Before I go any further, I totally forgot to do this before the show, which is just showcases how inept I am at producing my own show. Do me a favor. Can you give me one clap?
I sure will.
Curious. Awesome. Now I do my clap. All right, cool.
You want to start over?
That is for audio syncing.
Oh,
no,
okay. It's all good.
I'll just cut that out.
So we're professional enough to do the clap, but we are not professional enough to go back. And if there's something good, we want to keep it. We want to keep it forever. Okay.
Right. Exactly. No, this is how we do things.
If there was a Starbucks cup in the show, we would not edit it out. I feel like is the best way to say it.
So you got a PS4. You went through Spider-Man. I'm so glad you actually played that game, because isn't that game just incredibly so much fun?
And you know what? It is really fun. It's a blast. I think I had some really... Everybody was telling me how amazing it was, and so I had high expectations for that, and I had very low expectations for Horizon Zero Dawn. So both of them kind of like Spider-Man took me a while to kind of get used to the combat and get used to the fact that I was playing it on the cupcake difficulty, and I'm okay with that. I've accepted that I'm an old man and I don't have time to get good at video games anymore. But once I got into it, it was really engaging, and it was really immersive in kind of Spider-Man's world. I don't think there was any line of dialogue that was against Spider-Man's character as he is. And so it was really cool to just hang out with Spider-Man while he does things. I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I did like a little 1 minute review on my Instagram. By the way, Instagram, WiseDrums. And it was just like my first thought was, oh my God, they actually made a video game where you feel like you're freaking Spider-Man. This is it. This is a video game that is true to Spider-Man and true to how you do a superhero video game. Incredibly
consistent, just in tone, and like we said, like being Spider-Man is cool. If there's one criticism that I have, I wish they wouldn't kind of hard reset everything when they make a new movie or game. They always kind of like start at the beginning, because that makes it so that these major events that happen, like for example, if a main character dies, we think to ourselves, oh, it's fine because they're going to push hard reset again the next time another Spider-Man comes out. And we'll start all over. We won't know who Doc Ock is for some reason.
Yeah. So I'm really happy. I just bought Days Gone.
Oh, nice.
And I'm enjoying it so far. It's a survival horror game. We've already had discussions about me and survival horror games, but it's open world and it does have role-playing game elements to it. Few little quirks in here, and I'm like, well, first of all, again, I'm in the very beginning stages of the game. I'm only, I think, like 5-6 hours in, so maybe your inventory grows over time. But I'm of the school of thought that if your game has anything to do with, it has a strong emphasis on crafting, then your inventory should be a little bit bigger. And maybe again, that could be just it. Maybe it's further along down the line where you get like a backpack and you get all your crafting abilities, and you craft bigger and better things. as the game progresses.
Unfortunately, with these crafting games, there's only so many things that you can craft, so they basically make you earn everything. They make you earn more space in your inventory for not just, maybe you have bigger bullet pouch, bigger shotgun shell pouch, and those are two different things that you have to go out and find a boar or whatever to shoot with a bow and arrow. I'm not a big fan of crafting for its own sake. I think that it's okay to work it in as kind of like a little extra incentive. But I'm here to play a game, and it's like I'm with you. You run into a wall if you get everything you want, but you can't fit it because you haven't done this inane other thing.
Right. Yeah, and it also has your favorite thing in video games, which is weapon durability.
No, not anything but weapon durability. But unfortunately, I think this is where the industry is going. Just about everything has a crafting element, whether it belongs there or not. And so we're going to be crafting for a long time, unfortunately.
Yeah, like the weapon durability things just kind of piss me off. It just makes me want to just give me a weapon that doesn't break. Like, because I think like right now you can pick up melee weapons. It's basically Last of Us, but open world.
Okay.
At this point in the game. Okay. And a lot of stealth, a lot of big emphasis on stealth. And they're like booby traps and stuff, which I really haven't messed with yet, but I've been mainly just sneaking up on people and stabbing them with my Bowie knife.
That sounds pretty satisfying.
Bowie knife? Boot knife? And I've just basically just been like, even if I have a melee weapon, I just use my boot knife because I don't like, I might need this. I might need this melee weapon. I just keep holding on to these melee weapons, and I'm running into I'm playing the game like an RPG. Like I'm just stockpiling all of the inventory that I get, and I'm at max inventory because at this point in the game, and maybe over time it will increase, I can only hold like 5 things at a time. So I'm at max. So I'm seeing all these items around me, and I'm like, it's all maxed out, and I can't grab them.
It's annoying. Yeah, I think it's annoying, and it's very hard to go from another game that doesn't do that to you to that, and you're like, well, like if I wanted to be weighed down by what I was carrying, I would carry things in real life instead of playing a video game.
Right. But I will say I'm enjoying it. There's just little, the survival horror game quirks, and I'm like, it's just they just put it in there because they don't want to make you feel overpowered. Like in open world role playing games, it's really easy to like grind into a certain ability and just decimate people, and just apparently that ruins the game for people. But I don't. I think that makes the game awesome and fun.
Right. You're trying to get to that point as soon as possible.
Yeah. It's still fun. I'm enjoying it. I just played through The Witcher 3 again.
Nice.
For like the 4th time, because that game is still incredible, even though that game came out in 2013?
Did you get your DLC on?
Oh yeah, dude. I went through all the DLC. I went through, I started from the beginning. I didn't do New Game Plus. It's still just such a good game.
Let me ask you this. When it comes to games like this, I know that I will play a game again with the intention of making different decisions this time and finding a different ending. But what inevitably happens is I always get to that point and I'm always like, you know what? I got to stay true to myself. I would do this. And I do the same stupid things over and over because that's what I would do.
I'm the same.
Okay, good.
Same.
It's not just me.
I know. Didn't Levi? Didn't he go back and forth? Like he wanted to play Knights of the Old Republic as a Sith. He wanted to be evil, and he went back and forth.
Well, that's cool because those are like 2 completely different games, and that was one of the cool things, one of the millions of cool things that we really like about KOTOR is you have 2 different completely experiences, and this time you're not trying to decide like, oh, what's the right thing to do, what's the wrong thing to do. You're trying to decide like, what's the thing that pushes me more toward this direction that I want, either good or evil.
Right. And I think that's a good segue into our first topic: good or evil. Good and evil.
Okay.
Is it a good segue?
Okay.
It's a segue. It's a segue of sorts. Not maybe good or bad, or perhaps a little nuanced, like Game of Thrones, which we're going to talk about right now. So the finale, happened, and I, for one, enjoyed the finale.
Okay.
Did I think it was?
You're really going
best?
against the grain there by saying that.
I understand people's upsettiness. I understand people's grief and disappointment with especially season 8. But as far as the finale, I think they wrapped it up as best they could. Maybe, I don't know, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the very last scene where the Starks kind of just have their they sit and they go, we've been through all of this crazy stuff together, and we're sort of having our happily ever after moment right here. And that's what I really wanted for the Starks, because if there's any family that's been dragged through the mud, it's definitely the Starks, and they definitely need a little pick me up there at the end.
Well, okay. Would you say it's fair to say, though, that Game of Thrones was really about the Starks the whole time? That this was kind of like if the closest thing to a protagonist that we have? Because I really feel like, as Game of Thrones expanded and kind of got on, there's all of these competing motivations, and there's all of these just a ton of different characters. But I remember thinking about in the midway point, kind of like right after Arya got blinded. And by the way, there's going to be Game of Thrones spoilers as we talk about the finale episode of Game of Thrones. So don't anybody get mad because we didn't warn you. It was about the point that Arya got blinded, and I thought this show is actually made by a sadist who wants us to watch torture porn of the Starks, and they want us to see each Stark suffer until they die individually, just like Rob did. And further, they want to teach us a lesson that if you try to play the Game of Thrones with honor, like Ned did, you're going to get your head cut off. Like, that was a very clear message. Okay, you're going to have to be deceitful. You're going to have to suck it up and learn. Mm-hmm. And if you'd have told me at that point that 4 of the Starks were going to make it to the end, and they were all going to be sitting there chilling and doing their little, like at the end of an 80s movie where they freeze the frame and they're like, Arya is now an explorer that's off at the edge of the world. If you had told me that, I would be like, no, that's not the show that I'm watching. Like, I don't see that. But I think I can appreciate now the effect really that Ned Stark had in a positive way, because before I thought, okay, he was taken out of this world, and so was everything good that he did was undone by doing something honorable. But really there was a message of, Ned Stark made Jon Snow who he was. He made Arya who she was, but, he encouraged her with her dancing instructor. Anything that was good about Sansa or Theon was because of Ned Stark.
You're right, yeah. If it wasn't for Ned, Sansa possibly could have been just like Littlefinger. I mean, her interactions with Littlefinger, he taught her, and she said so in the show. Right. He taught her how to play the game, essentially.
Right. And so I think maybe that was cool to see, like, this kind of full circle of like, well, even though Ned got his head cut off, it was good that he did the right thing, and he taught his children to do the right thing, because it really felt like they were put into a world, this Westeros, that doesn't reward doing the right thing. And so I'm glad there was some of that, a little bit of that fairy tale there. I'll tell you my favorite part of the finale. The part that I really liked, two favorite parts. One of them was Daenerys' speech. I think I was pretty mad after the last episode. I thought the whole Mad Queen thing kind of came out of nowhere. But then her speech kind of showed that, she's not crazy and she's not angry. She's like a Congolese warlord or like a South American freedom fighter, next in the line of like 100 who say, I'm for the people. I'm going to liberate the people, liberate the people, liberate the people.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was relatable.
Right.
I thought that was relatable even kind of in our world.
Well, I think that's the biggest issue with season 8 was Dany's heel turn.
Right.
And I truly believe that the story will end up being sort of close to, at least similar to how it ended in the show. So what I mean is that in the books, each chapter is from the point of view of another character. You have whole chapters that you just have. I haven't read the books, but this is my understanding. So with that caveat, I've watched many a YouTube videos explaining about like the context of the book versus the show. It still doesn't make me an expert. Think about it this way, Shane.
Like when you watch the show, you can take, an event like, for example, the death of Sir Barristan Selmy or something, and you can say, I'm unhappy with how this went down in the show, but maybe the book is going to write it in a different way, and so it's kind of okay. It's almost like this out or this gimme. Even with the Night King, I actually was really happy with how the Night King died. I thought that episode was really cool, and that was, that was season 8, episode 3. A lot of people had a lot of problems with it, but I said, you know what? If they want, okay, I already kind of know that the Night King is going to die. If they want to kill him a different way in the books, that's fine. That's totally so it's not like anything's been ruined. The Daenerys turning point was really the first point that people said, this is foreshadowed in the books. This is something that's canon. So if they do this wrong, then we basically have to read the books no matter how good they are, knowing this is going to happen. And it's like some idiot just ran up and ruined the book for you. Because like, this is how it's going to end. And then they run away. And you're like, well, even if the book's really good, it's kind of tainted because what I wanted, I wanted to be surprised by that, I guess.
Yeah, I guess I can see your point with that, and a lot of the problems that people are, a lot of the reasons that people are upset, I think, is because they really wanted to just wrap up the show as fast as they could.
That was honestly, clear. I think that was clear.
It was very clear that they wanted to wash their hands of this show that this rather difficult show where every single episode was essentially a giant Lord of the Rings movie.
Sure.
And they did it for what, 10 years? Longer, maybe? I don't know. 2010 was when it first came out, I think. 2011 or something like that. I think it was
2011, I think was the first one.
Yeah. And so for nearly 10 years, they've just been like going guns a-blazing with this incredible TV show that's taken over all of our lives. And
where I kind of thought we saw that in a cool way was in the finale when over 8 seasons they've been fighting over the throne, and the Iron Throne is the thing that's the most important. Who sits on the Iron Throne? Who's going to end up on the Iron Throne? That's what we think the conclusion is going to be. And then finally, when it gets offered, nobody wants it. Like, they're basically sitting outside of Hiroshima after World War II, this completely destroyed city, and everybody's done with war. They don't care about the throne. They just want to go home. They want to be. And I thought that kind of like mirrored the author's fatigue and the audience's fatigue, that like, now that the weapons of mass destruction dragons have been dropped, we don't want to fight anymore. There's no, I will give concessions. I'll let somebody else be king if it means that there's no more war. And I thought that was really cool.
Yeah, and I think it's going to be even better in the books. And again, back to how the books read, I think George is what he's going to do, and it's going to be brilliant, is that he's going to take you through the story of Dany and her viewpoint, and it's going to take you into this girl's rise to power and how power corrupts anybody. And what's even more dangerous is that if you have an overblown sense of justice, and you will do anything to do anything for the sake of good or what you think is good. And she says so even that in the last episode, the finale, she says, I know what's good. And that is like, man, like, think of every single dictator, every single dictator thinks they know what's good, but if you were...
It really drives me crazy, by the way. I spent so much time in Nashville being taught that if you're going to write a love song, don't actually use the word love because it's lazy writing. So when I watch a TV show and I hear them talking about good and evil and they actually use the words good and evil, it drives me crazy. It's like, please show, don't tell. That's why I agree with some of the criticism people are saying. The plot drove the characters. They decided what they wanted to have happen, and then they fit the dialogue to kind of force the characters to do things that were against what they were until everything happened the way it did.
Yeah, I agree. There were some moments where it was lazy writing, but I'm just like, it's very obvious that this whole season is just, let's wrap it up. Okay, the Night King's gonna come.
Wrap it up, B. You better wrap that gavel up. Absolutely, all of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, but I think they hit enough beats, at least for me, where I'm like, okay, I can be content with this finale. It didn't hit me like Dexter, and a lot of people gave those comparisons. Did you ever watch Dexter?
No, but I heard it's taught me that like a show has to have a good finale, otherwise it'll become like Dexter or The Sopranos or one of those.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, and so I don't think the finale personally was that polarizing. In my view, in my wife's view, and I
got to watch it live, and okay, number one, I would say I highly recommend the books. I really think that you need to get a hold of the books, and I think that you would enjoy in a completely different way than you enjoyed the show. And what you'd also notice that some of your favorite lines from the show are actually ripped straight from the books. Like that was this, and you can kind of see, okay, I like the way they did it in the book better this time. There's quite a few occurrences that I prefer the way they did it in the show. I think that the way all the Dothraki died with the torches is something you have to show on film. Like you couldn't write it and show the same thing that we saw when we saw those torches go out one by one. That was just a really cool, visual kind of thing. But number one, I would recommend the books. And number two, I want to tell you that I saw the finale twice. Once last night by myself, and when it was live, and I was so critical of it, and I had all these problems with it. And I said, this person wouldn't do this. How did he just go up to Grey Worm and be like, I killed the queen, and they didn't die? Why didn't Drogon kill him? Like all of these things are like kind of anti what we built up. And then I watched it again with my wife and my dad, and we all watched it together. And you know what? We were shocked when we were supposed to be shocked. We were like reacting. I got to see their faces when Jon stabs Daenerys and stuff. And I thought, it's not just about Game of Thrones. Okay, Game of Thrones is not just for nitpicky people. It's, there's a lot to enjoy for everything. And number two, even when Game of Thrones is at its worst, it's still one of the best shows on television. Jon Snow's voice alone, this such commanding voice that's like you lean in every time he's about to talk because you're going to hear like a Jon Snow line, right? I mean, just that alone. Game of Thrones has like some magic. Game of Thrones has some like X factor, I think, that made it so much fun to watch. Even when there was all of these flaws, it was still one of the best shows on TV.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I watched, by the way, the YouTubers that everyone needs to watch, especially when it comes to Game of Thrones, is Alt-Shift-X, In Deep Geek, and...
Yeah, I like Alt-Shift-X.
Talking Thrones. Great channels. You all need to watch those because if you don't have enough time to like read the books and you're looking for different theories and this, that, and the other, watch those. Those are great. And there's plenty others too, but those are the three that I mainly watch. But one of them, I can't remember who it was, but one of those three, were talking about how, we need to, I think it was Alt-Shift-X. And he mentioned is like, look, man, we should all be happy that Game of Thrones even exists, and we should be happy that Game of Thrones is as successful as it is because George, he wrote those books with the sole intention of not being able to be filmed in any way, shape, or form, with the sex and the murder and the magic and the highest fantasy dragons, Valyria, blah blah blah, And yet, here we are. It's the biggest TV show, and it has been the biggest TV show for quite some time. And
we're lucky. We really are.
We are so lucky as like nerds who love dragons and magic and swords and like how crazy is it that this show even exists? And I'm like, wow, he's really right. He's totally right with this. And we get so caught up on the little itty bitty details. And we fight with each other because, we're so emotionally attached to these characters, and we just seem to forget, like, man, this show is like available to the whole world right now, and everybody loves it. Not just the nerds. The nerds really love it, but
the nerds love it so much they hate every episode.
Yes, right.
Yeah. Right, but maybe the fact that like nobody obsesses over a bad show, right? Maybe just the fact that we care this much about it is a testament to the quality of the show.
That's a great point. That's a great point.
Hey, did you notice that like the shadow of my headphones actually looks like a comb over. Like it looks like I have two Homer Simpson hairs that somebody has like plucked this way. I'm gonna work. We'll work on the lighting for next time. We can just move on and try not to see that every time you look at me from now on. I should have saved it till the end.
You look great. Very handsome.
Thanks, Shane.
What do you think of Bran actually? What do you think of of Bran essentially winning the Game of Thrones? Like, what a lot of people are very mixed on that.
You know, I really had high hopes for Bran this season because, and nobody really followed me on this. Like, nobody went down this path with me. But I really thought that Bran was so overpowered that he really needed to be taken out in the first couple episodes, or else he would solve everyone's problems forever. Because they made him out to be, you know, he's basically a demigod, right? Like, he can see everything everywhere. So, you know, we're watching him, and then all of a sudden we see him help Sansa and Arya kill Littlefinger, and we know, wait a second, he's not just above it all. He has a horse in the fight, and he's fighting on the side of the good guys. So now we know everything that Cersei's planning. We know everywhere that Euron's hiding. We know every like little detail of everything because Bran sees all and Bran fixes all and everything else. And so to see him be so passive in season 8 and kind of just be there and not really, you know, I mean, he's acting like, oh, well, you know, I don't really get involved in the affairs of men. But really, I mean, you know, Bran, you have a lot of power, and the people that need you, like Jon Snow, for example, could be using you in a way that you're not being used. And so it was annoying to me, like, every time they wondered what the secret was or something else, and they didn't just go and ask Bran. I don't know, that bothered me, right? Because that's what Game of Thrones is built on, like deception and lies and pretending to be friendly but not and everything else. And Bran just ruins that. Bran breaks all of that. If you just go and ask Bran, ask Bran, and he'll tell you.
You know, he plays it like he doesn't have a dog in the fight, like you said. But then so in one episode he tells Sam, look, we have to tell Jon that he's actually a Targaryen. And then a couple episodes later, when Jon is told that he's a Targaryen and looks at Bran, and Bran goes, it's up to you, dude.
Hey, I can see the future, but it doesn't matter to me at all. Yeah, that was maybe by then he knew. Maybe by then he knew, you know, that some of it didn't matter, because he's like, eventually you're just going to go north of the wall. That scene is going to take like 20 minutes for some reason. Everybody's going to think something's awesome is going to happen, but it's not. You're going to walk into the woods. It's going to be the end of, people are going to go, you know, this episode could have been 10 minutes shorter if you would just walk into the woods from the get-go. I guess I thought of something else I had a problem with the last episode.
Yeah.
But as far as Bran on the throne, I mean, it's... you know, they seemed okay with it, I guess. I can't think of anybody else that at that point, because Jon would have been too on the nose, right?
Jon being king would be too on the nose.
Yeah, do you think? I mean, like, does that make it bad though? If he's like, if it's the predictable option, that means it can't be Jon.
Well, it's. I really want to know. I want to get into whoever's choice it was to have Arya be the one to kill the Night King. I don't hate that.
I loved that.
I don't hate it.
I thought it was awesome.
I don't mind it. I was surprised when it happened, but the kind of geek nerd in me wants me to see an epic fight between Jon Snow and the Night King, because they've been alluding to that the entire show.
Yes,
all those looks that Jon has like looked at the Night King, and he's like, "I'm ready to take you on, bro." Similar to the Clegane Bowl, like the Clegane brothers. Like,
okay.
There's that tension between these two characters, and like you need to see these two fight. And then that was sort of taken away when Arya was the one that took down the Night King, and Jon really wasn't utilized in that whole episode. I mean, yeah, he rode a dragon.
Well, he did his move where he pulls out his sword and leans into someone and they die. That's like the trademark Jon Snow move. I think that the height of Jon Snow's actually fighting was the Battle of the Bastards, but I want you to think about how many times we've had a fight hyped and it had it not happen in the show. For example,
hang on,
Jamie.
I'm sorry. I'm gonna have to stop you there. What?
I'm sorry, because you said like Jon was just like on the dragon or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, could that be because like everyone was getting things done without Jon, so that was like alluding
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
Can
she
you say that
essentially
again?
just said
Say that again.
she is okay. Come here. So you're saying that he actually, the whole plan was for him not to do anything until the Night King showed up,
I don't know.
and then everyone else was just kind of making sure that everything was going according to plan.
Well, because you just said like he didn't really like do much in that whole episode, but
Right.
like, ride a dragon, but like everyone else kind of like held their own without his help.
Yeah, they did kind of hold their own without his help.
So
That is
maybe
true.
That was like prepping them for a life without John.
Do you want to come and sit on this? Sit on this?
He.
It's okay. Shoot.
I don't know if you remember this. I don't know if you remember this either, Shane. But he did yell at the dragon, and he yelled
He
at the
did
dragon,
yell at the dragon,
and that's contributing.
Yeah. So.
Well,
Okay. What were you saying earlier? I'm sorry, I didn't.
What I was going to say was, I want you to think about all the fights in Game of Thrones that have been hyped that did not happen. For example, they talk up Jaime Lannister as being the best swordsman in the entire kingdom, and you don't get to see him sword fight once before he gets his hand chopped off. Then they talk up Sir Barristan Selmy.
He kind of fought Ned in like season 1.
Well, yeah, I think he killed one of Ned's guards, and then there was like a brief. But like it wasn't the hype. It wasn't
Right.
living up to the hype at all. Sir Barristan Selmy is another really great example. Sir Barristan the Bold is talked up as being, Jaime squired for him, and he said that he was a painter that only painted in red. When Ned met him face to face, he said, "I'm really glad I didn't get you on the battlefield because you would have killed me." Barristan himself, when he gets kicks out of the Kingsguard, he says, "Even now I could cut down the 5 of you like I was cutting a cake." And you believe it because it's been hyped, hype. Then we finally get to see him fight, and he dies to a bunch of alley street urchins in Marine, the lamest of all places. Marine is where he dies.
Yeah.
And it's like, there goes all the chance that we had to see an awesome,
I suppose you're right.
I agree
Yeah.
that Jon Snow is a great sword fighter, but I know that from the Battle of the Bastards, from him beating everybody at Castle Black, kind of like,
Hardhome.
yeah, Hardhome, yeah, the other, I guess, big battle. So I think I've seen what Jon Snow can do. If that makes any sense. In other words, I guess I didn't mind as much when they would cut away from Jon Snow and they would come back and everybody was already dead. And you're like, well, I missed some good sword fighting there. Or when, there was never an opportunity for Jon Snow. And see, maybe that's what they wanted you to think, was that there was going to be a big Jon Snow Night King battle. But when he's cut off from the battle by the dragon, you're like,
Yeah, I guess you're right. I guess that is pretty Game of Thrones. Just like, hey, look at this. It's over here. It's over here. Guess what? No,
yeah,
your hopes and dreams are dashed. Yeah. You think
and
you know
Ashley's
what's going
right.
on.
He did. I mean, he did a lot in that battle. Now that I'm kind of thinking through, like he really did. He did a lot in that battle.
I mean, well, the whole idea of the battle was for them not to do anything until
the Night King goes after Bran.
Right. The whole idea was to lure the Night King in there, and then but that didn't happen because Dany, in her great wisdom, was to just go in.
She was like, "Oh,
guns
townsfolk,
blazing with the dragon.
Townsfolk, I better burn them all. Look, it's women and children out there on the battlefield. I should kill them all."
No, yes, the Dothraki. So yeah, she sees the Dothraki be utterly destroyed, and then she just
utterly
has an
and
emotional
completely 100% destroyed. Every single Dothraki died, and then in the next episode there was 100,000 of them, and then in the next episode there was 1 million of them. So I think they
the continuity is a
respawn
little
or
lost
something.
there.
Yeah,
Whatever. So I mean, but ultimately, I just, like, I still think it was a great show. I am not mad at it. Like, am I disappointed in certain things, how it turned out and how they played out? Yeah, I'm a little disappointed. I would be lying if I didn't say wasn't a little disappointed. But at the end of the day, I was like, man, it's a good show, and I'll rewatch it. I'll definitely rewatch it again. And
there was a lot to like about it. Yeah,
I don't feel like it was like Lost. If you remember Lost, when the Lost was,
I think people were equally obsessed, right?
Yeah, for sure. Man, I think people hated the finale of Lost. I mean, like, absolutely hated. I liked it.
I thought it was great.
Personally.
I know. Thank you, Shane. I thought it was good. So you and me are on the same page.
It's like, just the whole finale was basically tugging on your heartstrings, which they sort of kind of did in the last episode of Game of Thrones. And the last episode was essentially, and I think this is it probably basically is George R. Martin's last book, A Dream of Spring. Okay. Because that whole episode, besides the first like 20, 30 minutes of it, was sort of like this hopeful message. Like, we're all torn, we're all wounded emotionally and physically, and we're just, like you said earlier, it's like we're done with war and done with fighting. Let's just try to build a better world because we're done, and let's move on. You know, and so it truly was like a dream of spring. I made a little notes here before we move on to the next topic, unless you have anything else to add.
I'm willing to send you the books if you want them. I think that you would really
I have
enjoy
some.
Oh, okay.
But you know me, I'm not much of a reader because I get distracted often because of my ADD. Okay. So at least ADD when it comes to books. For some reason, I'll start reading a book, and it hasn't gotten better with age. I'll try to read a book, and my mind will wander after like a few paragraphs, and I'll start thinking about something else and not something that I'm supposed to be reading.
Yeah, when you get to Leviticus, that usually happens. You should try a different book than the Bible, and maybe that won't happen.
But how will I be able to go to church?
Let's hear your notes.
So, things I liked about Season 8, these are just like quick notes that I wrote. It's like, the Starks having a happily ever after type ending. I enjoyed that.
That's
Theon's redemption arc. I really enjoyed.
I think that Alfie Allen did the best acting job on the entire show. He went through so many, he metamorphoses so many times, and he came out the other side a good man, just like Bran would say. You're a good man.
Yeah,
yes.
I mean, I kind of almost teared up at that point, because this whole time that Theon just wanted to be a good man, like a good person, and He ended up, sacrificing himself to save Bran.
He's disappointed us so many times, and then he does have like a real redemption, and I thought that was cool.
Brienne getting some. That was nice.
Leah had a really good idea.
Her and Jaime getting together.
Leah was mad that she wasn't pregnant. Like, Leah was like, is she pregnant? And I was like, that would have been great. Why didn't they think of that?
Yeah, they didn't think of that. Oh, yeah, by the way, Cersei being pregnant, I guess, didn't go anywhere. That was
if she was or wasn't. I mean, she was apparently like 22 months along, I guess. And every time she would meet a new man, she was like, it's your baby.
Maybe that's just another manipulation tool that she used. I don't know. But that was kind of like, okay, why'd you even put that in there?
That was one of many things that just fizzled out, yeah.
Yeah, Brienne getting knighted. I thought that was really nice.
That was another one of the best scenes, especially because we've never really seen her smile. That's not really in her character, and to see her do that like really girlish grin that was just like a full on so happy was awesome.
Yeah, that was really nice.
And to see Tormund cheering her on, like genuinely happy for her too. That was cool.
That was like almost I was almost teary. I was like,
yeah,
this is awesome.
I was Team Tormund 100% against Team Jaime.
Arya being a force Arya being a force to be reckoned with. Like, I thought that was pretty badass. She showcased her skills, obviously in the long night, and because they spent so much time, just telling her side of the story of like her training and her becoming, a face of death and this, that, and the other. So I thought that was pretty cool.
You know what was cool, I think, was that there were some problems even Arya couldn't solve. Like, I think it meant something different that Jon was the one to stab Daenerys instead of Arya. Like, a lot of people thought that was how that was going to go down, or that Arya was going to sneak in and kill Cersei. Well, I'm kind of glad it went I'm kind of glad it went the way that it did instead of that. So even though Arya was kind of like invincible, she wasn't really used like a superhero where she wasn't needed. Am I what?
Right. Never mind. We'll get to what I was about to say in the things I didn't like so much.
Here we go.
Sansa not taking any crap anymore, basically by being Littlefinger version 2. And,
yeah, but Littlefinger would like at least pretend to be your friend while he was stabbing you in the back. And when Sansa was like like openly opposed to Daenerys, I thought maybe she should have taken Littlefinger's lessons a little bit more seriously.
Well, that was the Ned side of her. The
Oh.
Ned side of her is like, look, I'm not going to lie to you. I don't
Honesty.
like you.
Yeah, honesty.
But,
Okay.
And if this is going to go down, I will use all of my weapons to take you down. That is just how it's going to go.
There was only throughout the entire show there was only one Littlefinger. You know, even Varys was not the same kind of manipulator that Littlefinger was. He was
Right.
He was the Benjamin Linus of the show. He always had a plan.
Yeah.
He always had like a bunch of things going, and I just thought that was so cool. And when he died, that was that was kind of a vacancy. This like master of whispers was
Yeah.
gone. Also, Tywin Lannister, my all-time favorite character, also left some pretty big shoes when he died. He would have
Yes.
solved everything instantly.
Absolutely, man. I missed Tywin very, very much.
Deeply.
He was a great character. And all right, let's move on. Jon being reunited with Ghost at the very end. I was like, they better freaking show Ghost. If they're going to send Jon to the wall, Ghost better be there at least in one shot. I'm just asking one shot with Jon and Ghost getting together and be like, what's up, boy? How you doing? Oh, I missed you so much. You're so cute. Who's a cute wolf? Who's a cute little
Do you
wolf?
think they planned that, or did they add that in the week between episode 5 and episode 6? Because they were like, oh crap, all the fans are super mad about him not petting Ghost.
I
So
don't
the
care.
CGI was like, I'm gonna take it 24/7. I'll do this. I'll make this happen.
I don't care, but I'm glad they put it in there. That's all I wanted. It's like, all right. And then, of course, I liked Jon as commander of the Night's Watch, or being a part of... did they say he was basically the commander of Night's Watch there? Again.
You mean like going back? Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay. I mean, he's wearing Longclaw. So
Yeah.
maybe that means he is.
And then people look up to him, so it's like, there's no way that he wouldn't be the leader of this group.
And I'll tell
because
you what,
he-
what a leader of the group definitely would do is close down the Night's Watch and leave and go north with some people. That shows true leadership.
Well, I just think, like, where else are you gonna put him? You can't put him on the throne. That'd have been too on the nose. You know, it'd have been like, yeah, so Jon's the king and he's just gonna rule like Ned. I guess you could have went that way, but would that be too predictable? You know?
Predictable isn't always bad. I think we knew that
Yeah.
Jon was going to kill Daenerys in the first maybe 15 minutes of the last episode, but that didn't mean it wasn't meaningful when it happened.
I didn't think it was going to happen that fast. I thought it was going to happen
really?
towards the end of the episode, but I guess that would make sense. Like, again, with the whole theme of let's wrap it up, we got a whole bunch of exposition
when you walk
we
in
got
the
to get
throne
to.
room with the dagger, hey, you're gonna put it inside somebody. And then Drogon, I don't think I've ever seen dragons done this well, like in CGI or in anything. But like,
Dude.
Drogon like nuzzling Daenerys to see if she was still alive. That was really heartbreaking, and that was like,
yeah, and it must have been really incredibly difficult to actually animate.
Yeah.
And I watched this YouTube video about their CG animation artists. There was 3 of them, and they just kind of break down several movies and TV shows and their CG and if it's good or bad and what they would have done different or how difficult it was. And Game of Thrones is one of the shows that they reacted to, and they were going through is like, wow, every time I watch Game of Thrones, I just cannot believe like how much time and effort it took to make this shot. This is really difficult shit that we're talking about here.
it's really top tier. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, and especially for a TV show, that's incredible. I really enjoyed, this might've been a little, maybe too fan servicey, but I enjoyed it, was the dragon wings as Dany was walking out to the sea of people. The dragon wings came up behind her.
It was a cool shot. Yeah.
I thought that was a cool shot. I was
And
like,
I thought that
all
like
right.
if they had that, they didn't also need her to dress like Maleficent and to wear all black. Like it was clear already, how we were supposed to feel about her without them having to like really spoon feed us that she was evil.
I didn't mind again, I wear all black, so like, everyone could wear black and it'd be totally fine. But yeah, I can see what you're saying there. I really enjoyed the first council meeting at the first council meeting of,
That
everyone
too
is
was
dead.
some pretty hardcore fan service.
Yeah, but it was funny. I was like, this is good because I enjoy all those characters like interacting with each other because they don't like. It's just this is really funny. It's funny. It made me smile. Braun is just amazing. Like I'm so glad that he didn't end up dead in the show.
Yeah.
Braun, Sir Braun of the Blackwater. And them talking about themselves in the third person, I was just cracking up. I just enjoyed that. And of course, I really enjoyed Clegane Bowl. I really enjoyed finally.
You
we
thought
got
it
to see
was
the
a
Mountain and the
satisfying
Hound.
ending, kind of seeing them kill each other, I guess.
Well, look, man, I understand that the show tries not to be predictable with, fantasy themes and stuff like that, epic battles, blah, 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 blah. But I needed to see that. Okay, that had to happen.
I
The
think
Mountain
even
versus the Hound had to happen.
Yeah, I think it did. I think it did have to happen.
There
but
has
I
to be
think somehow
there
my
has to be
favorite
one.
part of it was Qyburn trying to tell him not to do it, and then getting Dr. Frankenstein against the wall by his own creation. That was awesome.
That was good,
absolutely
and a good way to tie up Qyburn's story. Just like, all right, well, you're dead now, so again, wrap it up.
Yeah, no, yeah,
No
you're
more
right.
exposition
You're
from
right.
him. Just destroy him outright. All right, let's move on to the things I didn't like so much.
Okay.
The Night King's ending was a little too anticlimactic for me. I think the whole show is like building to this, this evil, unstoppable force that's going to come down and destroy the world. And I felt like
Would you have preferred it in the last episode?
See, the way I always thought the story was going to play out was the Night King would be the biggest threat. And so, it's like we're fighting global warming. It's like the biggest threat yet, because that would be the last page. That would be the last couple chapters of the book, But that's not how it went. And apparently Cersei and Dany's story was essentially the
The big bad.
The big bad. So I feel like if they would have switched it somehow, it probably would have been better for me.
I would have
if they
liked.
just-
I think the way that they could have switched it in a way that would have satisfied me. Let me pitch this to you and see if you would have liked it. If they have the battle at Winterfell against the White Walkers, but the Night King isn't there, nor is his dragon, and the whole time they're wondering where he is. Really, the Night King flew south and sacked all of King's Landing. So now they have to do another battle with all the zombies coming north, including zombie Cersei and everybody that was in King's Landing. Would that have been
I would have-
awesome?
That would have been awesome.
Yeah, okay,
and that was
I
one of the
agree.
theories. That was one of the theories that I heard that was going to come out. It's like, he's not coming north. He's actually going south, So
That's just a way to get to, I guess, kind of push back the Night King and make the Night King the biggest, baddest, big bad. But I
Right.
think the story they wanted to tell wasn't so much Cersei being the most evil, because I don't even think she was the most evil person on the show, because really she always had like her children to like blame her evilness on. Oh, well, I love my kids and so I do this, which was kind of relatable, right? I mean, we know people who like, can I speak to your manager? Like that, like really
Right.
obsessed with, if my kid does it, that means it's okay. So everybody else, it's me and my kid against the world. That was kind of
Right.
Cersei's relatability. So it didn't make her the most evil person on the show by a long shot. But I think they wanted to tell Daenerys' story, or I think they wanted that heel turn that you were talking about. And I think it could have been done with a little bit more finesse. But like that was I guess the big bad was Daenerys. It wasn't the Night King.
Right. And maybe the biggest threat is, this sense of, what's dangerous is really humans and how.
Yeah, exactly.
it-
What's more dangerous? Like the faceless evil that's like the big evil of a fantasy, the Sauron character? Or is it the like evil that's inside of each of us as people, right? That maybe they're trying to tell that message.
Yeah. And, yeah. And again, I'm fine with the finale. It just didn't, I would have liked to see that, but whatever. Anyway,
What else did you have against it? Yeah.
not utilizing John enough. I think we discussed that. Humanizing Cersei at a time where, like, I would have enjoyed the Arya assassination theory, you know, instead like, you know, is it like Cersei escapes, Jaime goes to find her, they end up dying underneath the keep, and I'm just like, really? This is how Cersei gets her comeuppance? Uppance? Like, this is how she dies? This is how, like, she did so much like evil shit. Like, this is her punishment for killing Missandei in front of
Maybe we were
Dany?
supposed to see, and maybe in those moments we were supposed to see Cersei the way that Jaime did. Because if Jaime didn't love Cersei, then what he did was pretty unforgivable, abandoning Brienne and going south. He was basically going south because he thought she was going to die, and he wanted to be there when she died. Like, that was basically the thing. So I think that was his perspective. We kind of got to see his perspective of Cersei as, you know, everything's been taken away from her. You know, she's lost. She knows that she's lost. She has nothing left. But there's Jaime. So it kind of like, I guess, broke her heart to see the person who was there for her all along.
Yeah, I can see that. And another thing about, like, that was my next thing, is like Jaime's sort of redemption arc reversed too quickly. Like, in one episode he was like, all right, I'm over here now, I'm with you guys, I'm with the Northerners, and I'm with Brienne, this is great. The next episode, nah, I'm just gonna go back to King's Landing and go back to that toxic relationship I have with my sister.
Oh,
and,
well, he didn't fight for her, did he? He didn't kill Northerners. He didn't kill Daenerys. He didn't try to kill Daenerys. Like, he wasn't part of her army.
No,
he just wanted to be there as she lost.
Yeah, I mean, I can see that, but still, I was just kind of like...
Yeah, I agree with you that Jaime's one of the most complex characters on the show, and to show him, like, maybe it would have been better, you know, here's an idea that may have made it better, is if he made it clear from the get-go, I'm here to fight for the living. I'm here to help you guys defeat the Night King. Once the Night King's dead, you know, everybody looks around, they're like, where's Jaime? Where's Jaime? And they figure, you know, he's not pretending to be one of the good guys by having a beer with Tyrion. Okay. Yeah. He always had loyalty to the Lannisters. He always had, you know, loyalty to his queen. And he disagreed with her about this one thing, these night zombies. Okay. But in the end, you know, he was there because he loved her, and love is the death of duty. Yep. It's a recurring theme.
As Aemon Targaryen.
It was, I think we're harsh on him because of the side fling with Brienne that turned out being really weird and awkward when he left. I thought that he was leaving and he was basically telling her he was going to kill Cersei because he had done all these things for her and he regretted them all. And now he's going to go take Cersei down. And I thought, wow, there sure are a lot of people converging on King's Landing trying to kill Cersei. When, you know, the winner of the race turned out to be some Casterly rocks. Casterly rocks that fell on her.
Yeah, that's right.
It was foreshadowed.
We talked about this too. The heel turn by Dany done a little bit too quickly or without much finesse. Kind of just happened out of nowhere. And
you need showing, not telling, right? Like showing is like I actually liked the showing in the last episode because Daenerys wasn't really it almost seemed like along season 8 she's like collecting reasons to do the thing, right? Oh, well, you know, I saw Missandei die. I lost a dragon for no freaking reason at all. Okay, I mean, let's talk about that. Either dragons are indestructible fighting machines that are weapons of mass destruction and invincible, or they can just be taken out by a little sneak attack on the boats. Mister shoots his crossbow.
What I've heard, the argument against that that shouldn't have happened so easily was that no one was riding the dragon. Is that Rhaegar wasn't being rode. And when a dragon is being ridden by a Targaryen, apparently that control is like super ultimate Megatron power.
Shane, I'm gonna go out on a limb here and say that's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. And I've never heard such suck up fan lip service to whoever wrote it and say, ooh, well, because they wrote it that way, that must mean it's the right thing. So now let's do all these mental gymnastics to figure out why it was really... No, I was rooting for Rhaegal, okay? He was my favorite. Rhaegal was the man. and he got stabbed in the neck. And I still said, I was like, Euron lied to Cersei when he said he saw him sink beneath the waves. He captured him. The last shot of the whole season, the last shot of the whole series is going to be a dimly lit Greyjoy basement dungeon, and they've got Rhaegal there seething and waiting for revenge and waiting for his chance to escape in the chains. And that would have been awesome. But instead, it was just... No, the way that George R.R. Martin describes the dragons in the books is he describes them as weapons of mass destruction. Well, I think it's very apt considering the, turning of King's Landing into ash and how much everybody's told her. Jorah told her, armies don't win wars, dragons do. Like this is a weapon that will always win forever. And then to have an aircraft be snuck up on by a navy, has that ever happened in the history of humanity ever? No, it never has. But then they've got these like Stinger missile things, and it really felt like, oh, I guess they're just trying to like build the tension. And you're trying to tell me it was because he didn't have a rider. Oh, okay. So Daenerys wasn't paying attention, but a rider totally would have kept Rhaegal from dying and being ambushed by these like, oh, it just makes me so mad. Yeah, Shane, it makes me so mad. I want him to still be alive. I
was quite upset with that that level of writing during that part. But at the same time, it's like, well, you have two dragons. All right. How are you going to take how would you be able to take out the dragon? Like, I suppose that you could have done it when you're actually sacking King's Landing and made the battle just a little bit more competitive with two dragons. Okay,
well, think about it this way. What if Daenerys doesn't plan on having a revenge, doesn't plan on killing everybody? She hears the bells, and then a random dude, not Euron, because screw Euron. let's just all agree that taking Euron out of the picture completely makes everything better for everyone.
Agreed.
You have a random dude fire a really lucky scorpion shot and hit Rhaegal. Rhaegal dies in front of Daenerys. After the bells have rung, Daenerys goes into a fit of rage, kills everybody in town. She's finally been pushed over the edge. Now, her arc is a little more believable. She just watched her child die in front of her. And Rhaegal doesn't get ambushed for no reason.
I like that.
Jon could even be riding Rhaegal. Jon could crash land Rhaegal and survive by pulling the ejection spine on the dragon's back.
And on the other subject of dragons, what did you think about... because this is the first time I've ever seen it in the show. And maybe it happens in the books. I'm not sure, but apparently dragons can just pick up people with their claws and go and fly away. Because remember when Drogon...
I really thought that kind of made it easy for Jon to just walk out and say, "Hey guys, Daenerys is out on an errand with her dragon, so I'm not gonna run away or anything, but just wait for her to come back. She told me to tell you guys, wait for her to come back before you do anything, and also Jon's gonna leave. She told me to tell you guys that." We've seen the dragons carrying sheep and stuff in Talon, so I guess it's just like a bird. It doesn't like that. Wasn't the moment I was like, "Hey, dragons can't do that."
No, I didn't say that. I was just unexpected. I was like, "Okay, what is that? Agree. Is that a claw? What's going?" Because it kind of came out of side screen. It just kind of came. Yeah,
it's
like,
just
what
there
is that?
Under her, and you're like,
"Oh, is that a? Oh, that's his claw. That's his claw. Okay, that's interesting." And so, yeah.
What's the dragon gonna do with the body exactly?
I don't know.
Just lay it down and be sad?
I guess so. It was kind of sad. It was really sad.
It was super sad. Yeah, but it was also like, in the same way that Grey Worm should have killed him instantly when he found out that Daenerys was dead, Drogon should have killed him instantly too. Like, I don't,
Yeah, I really would have enjoyed the whole idea that Drogon, shoots fire on Jon, and, you see, there's this big ball of fire being... spewed on Jon, presumptively killing him.
Oh, but he's got the Targaryen dragon
He's
blood.
got Targaryen, and he's not affected by fire. But that wouldn't have worked because he's actually been burned in the books and in the show. And I think in the books, his burn was so bad that he always twitches his hand. Because of his burn.
Was it when he was killing the White with the lantern?
Yeah, the White in the Night's Watch. So that wouldn't have worked. So... whatever. Anyway, I enjoyed it. I love Game of Thrones. It's incredible. And, I'm totally fine with the finale. People are going to be very upset. That's to be expected from any great hit show like The Sopranos, like Lost, like,
Dexter.
Dexter. I mean, that one is the most understandable. That is the most understandable.
It doesn't make me mad. Like, it's okay if somebody on Game of Thrones does something that makes you mad. Sometimes that means, like, they're acting in their character, and that's okay. But it makes me... If somebody's doing something and it's, like, against their character, like Grey Worm, for example, it really seems like his character has taught us that thus far he would never, ever, ever imprison Jon Snow and then let him out later and give him to, he's like, well, I've got you. Might as well send some ravens to the other lords of the north and they'll decide what to do with you. That's not really in Grey Worm's character to do that.
Yeah, that's a little weird.
It's moments like that. Like one of the highlights of the show, and I really feel like my favorite part of the whole show, and it was actually done better in the show than it was in the books, is this love triangle between Tywin, Shay, the prostitute that Tyrion is in love with, and Tyrion. And all three of them, it's so cool because this is a great example of characters driving plots. All three of them do things that make you mad, but they do things that are consistent with their own character. And they get themselves in this thing where eventually Tyrion kills both Tywin and Shay, and no one has acted contradictory to their character like they've done. So even though you're like, I can't believe you just did that. I think that the relationship between Tyrion and Jaime was actually cheapened by the show, and was, on the show there, in the books, like the last thing that we read that the last time Jaime and Tyrion are together is when Jaime's helping Tyrion escape after that trial, and he tells him he feels sorry for Tyrion, so Jaime tells him that his childhood wife Tisha was actually not a prostitute at all. It's just that Tywin didn't want him marrying a lowborn woman, and so he made an example out of her. And Tyrion is so angry when he hears that. He actually tells Jaime that he killed Joffrey. He tells Jaime that he poisoned Joffrey and that it's true. They split up, and that's the last time they speak to each other in the books. And there's that, like, such amount of tension between them, and such amount of, like, did he say it in anger? Was he telling the truth? Was he telling the truth about Tisha? Like that kind of, like, so much tension and, like, heartbreak between them two. And then in the show they're like, cocks and wine, ha ha ha, ha ha ha, jokety joke. Like, it's moments like that make book readers be like, some of this was kind of wasted, or some of this kind of fell along the wayside.
Well, we don't have much time for the second.
Let's not worry about the second topic. I feel like we've done Game of Thrones justice in what we've talked about, and I'm really glad that I'm able to kind of get these things out, because usually when I start talking about Game of Thrones, people walk away and they don't want to hear any of my theories or true statements about how I feel about the show. But I want you to know I'm kind of in your camp, because seeing it with my wife and my dad really reminded me that, like, it's okay to enjoy Game of Thrones for what it is, even if it doesn't live up to some kind of, like, impossible expectations we have. It's so great, and there's swords and cool costumes, and there's fighting, and there's resurrected Dothraki that apparently multiply and that have absolutely no use at all other than to rape some people in King's Landing. They have no reason why they couldn't just all die north of the Wall. Or not north of the Wall. They couldn't die in the Battle of Winterfell and just be dead. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, we also have to remember, like, it again, I think I've mentioned this already, but the show itself isn't for the big the nerds. It is for the nerds, but it's also for people who haven't read the books and don't care to read the books. They just want a good TV show to watch with great plot lines, great characters.
I guess that's true.
And it's more accessible to a different demographic, a wider demographic. It's not just for me and you. It's for people who just want a good TV show to watch.
People who just like swords and blood and boobs and beer.
I mean, that's what HBO is.
That's exactly what HBO is. By the way, can I just say that Well, the worst part about watching Game of Thrones is watching previews on HBO for some of the dumbest looking shows I've ever even conceived of. I'm like,
Are you
how
not
on
interested?
earth?
Are you not interested in The Watchmen though?
That looks pretty cool. I did not
Because I
include
know
that
you.
in
I
my
know you.
dumbest
You're a big
shows
fan.
list.
You're a big fan of The Watchmen.
The Watchmen, yeah, the Watchmen was cool, and it would be interesting to see.
Do you think they're going to be able to because it's going to be a series? So do you think they'll be able to sort of capture more of the nuance and the actual visual novel has?
Honestly, I thought that some of Game of Thrones, and I know GRRM is a Vietnam War vet. I think that some of Game of Thrones, especially at the very end with the dragons, conveyed the same message that Watchmen did, because Watchmen is about, you know, this one superhero, Dr. Manhattan, who represents the atom bomb, and the whole theme going through, you know, this was written in the 80s during the Cold War when everyone was just so terrified that at any moment they were going to be completely obliterated by an atom bomb, and that was going to be that. Everything that they worked for, everything that they were striving to obtain would be instantly demolished in the blink of an eye. And at the same time, there's all these superheroes, only they're not really superheroes. They're just people that dress up in costumes and pretend to be superheroes that Dr. Manhattan has now made obsolete. Like, now there's no more, you know, of even their lives or what they did before. So the whole thing is like an allegory. Everything represents something and everything. And so it's so dense. Like, if I was going to make a show about it, it would be very difficult to include the amount of density that's in the books, because the books has so much symbolism and so much, or the book, I guess, is what it is. That's why it's on like Time, you know, 100 best novels of all time is The Watchmen. It's really cool.
Yeah. So I'm excited to get into that. I think I'm going to get back into Westworld again.
Now that it's
I haven't
cowboys and Indians, it's cyberpunk 2077 Westworld.
Well, we stopped watching it because I enjoyed it, but Ashley didn't. She enjoyed it, but it was kind of over her head, and it was kind of over my head too. There's a lot of like philosophical deep shit in that show, like consciousness and
this,
you know what it means to be human, and you know, like this deep stuff, and sci-fi, of course. And Ash is not much into sci-fi, as much as I am anyway. And so I just didn't watch the second season. So, but Aaron Paul is going to be in the third season, and
he's great.
We love ourselves some Aaron Paul. Like, we need to see him in more stuff. Like, we tried to watch his Hulu show. Did you know he was in that show, a Hulu show called oh God, baby, what was that show called? The Path.
Oh, was it good? Not really.
It was okay. It wasn't, you know.
Dude, he's in BoJack Horseman, and that's a really good show. It's like the most depressing show ever, but it's really good.
You're selling it, man. I just really want to watch a really depressing show.
It
That's all I want to watch.
It is a bum and a half. Like, you think you're disappointed by the things that characters on Game of Thrones do? Like, this is just like, it puts you in a pit. It's awesome. Well, don't you know? I mean, sometimes when you feel bad, you want to listen to a sad song, right? This is no different. I mean,
I suppose. I don't know, man. I don't like watching depressing movies or shows. Like, I can't.
It's not Schindler's List. I mean, it's still really funny.
No,
right?
the worst show that I've watched that was like the most depressing movie I've ever watched, and I'm like, I can't believe I'm watching this. I need to turn this off right now. But it was a movie that. It was like the couples movie. Like, we need to watch this tonight. We need to watch a movie tonight. We're gonna.
Oh no.
We had watched like an action movie the week before, and so she picked a movie.
Somebody else's turn. Yeah.
Yeah, and so it was Revolutionary Road, and she loves that movie. She thinks it's great. I think it's the most depressing movie ever made. she's screaming. It's real life.
The road. That's what makes it depressing, right? The Road is also really depressing too.
Yeah, I suggest you watch it just so you get to so you can talk to me about it, or we can talk about it.
Bro, I'm like you, man. If there's something on my list, like my queue on Netflix is all the serious movies, right? The Pianist and Adrian Brody's masterpiece, and like those just stay on my list while I watch, Ace Ventura again. I'll watch Ace Ventura 3 times for every one. The Pianist, right?
Oh man. Oh yeah. Jim Carrey is Dr. Robotnik.
Yeah. We will talk about him.
Yeah, we'll talk about it next time. Next time we'll talk about it. But yeah, dude, this is a good convo about our favorite show, or one of our favorite shows rather. And
it's a good one. It's a good. I don't have any regrets about how I felt watching all of Game of Thrones, and the only regret I have is that I wish you were a book reader, because I know there's going to be some stuff you miss out on. I know you're really gonna miss those list of names. Like in the show, they would show, okay, here's like 10 people in a room, but in the book, they're like, and Hiramnal of Harrenhal was there, standing next to Peter of and you're like, oh my gosh, is there gonna be a test on this? This is like homework. I gotta read all these stinking names. Who comes up? There has to be like somebody whose full-time job is making sure that all the names are consistent and the people are where they're supposed to be. Like that's the reason he hasn't written the book, is just because he has to cross-reference his giant. He's like, what? Who was in Hiramnal? Was it Hiramnal or Hiramnal?
I always wondered that, because it's such a dense, there's so many characters in that book that have so many different pathways. And, then I was thinking to myself, it's like, if you're going to write a book, a fantasy book about an entire different world that relies heavily on geography, you're going to have to make up a map.
Yeah.
Yourself.
Yeah. Make up a map, make up a people, make up who's allied with whom and who's changed their alliance since this event happened. I mean, it's a whole like world building. It's called world building basically, because you have like you have stories over here that you write, but they're all referencing this like pantheon of you might the book might have like a giant Bible. Like there was like there was one for Harry Potter that basically just had like everything that was going to happen so that she could keep it consistent while she was writing the books. And it's like mind-boggling to me. Like when you read it, you're just like, I can't believe someone could come up with this and keep it all straight and tell such a good story while they were doing.
Yeah. Lost had a Bible too.
Yeah,
by the way.
yeah. I think on the 3rd season they went to like a camp and they wrote the whole thing, or they how everything was going to go down. And then there was the cool thing about that is there was enough flexibility to still include some people like they gave who was the Australian guy that liked Penny?
Desmond.
Yeah, they gave Desmond a lot more than what they had planned to. And then when the actor for Benjamin Linus came along, he killed it so much that they were like, we're going to write you in. And they basically shoehorned him into what they had planned. Yeah, so there was still like some freedom there. It's mind-boggling. Like, how do you keep track of all that?
I think one of the best villains of all time is Benjamin Linus.
Yeah.
I mean, when he came in and finally showed his true colors, and you're like, oh shit, this guy is the mastermind.
You remember when he turns around to John Locke right before they're going to go in, and John Locke's like, well, what are you going to do then? And he turns around and he's actually like offended that someone's questioning his genius. And he turns around and he goes, how many times do I have to tell you, John? I always have a plan. Oh, it was amazing. Oh, Benjamin Linus was the best.
And like, I love how he gets like mad. We're actually rewatching Lost again.
Oh, nice.
Me and Ash, yeah. And so it's just such a good show. It's so fun. I mean, it's losing its luster over time. It's showing its age a little bit, but still, it's a great written show. And the characters, man. The actors that played these characters still like one of the best acting in a TV show.
It's phenomenal.
It's phenomenal. Anyway, like the matter of factness that Ben has, like when there's the episode where a lawyer goes to, after they come back off the island and they're back in the city, and Kate has a little boy Aaron.
Yeah. And
the lawyers come to her house and say, hey, we need to take your baby. And so she takes the baby, whatever. Turns out the lawyer is actually Ben's lawyer. And so there's a scene where Ben is talking to Jack, I think it's Jack, or Saeed, talking in the car. The lawyer comes up to the car and Ben like has a conversation with him. The lawyer hands him a folder and he said, "Is it done?" And the lawyer goes, "Yes, it's all done. It's all Hurley's not going to jail, this, that, and the other." And then so good work. And the lawyer walks away. And then Saeed goes, "Who was that?" And Ben looks at him and goes, "That's my lawyer."
He had so many moments like that where he gets to be the one to drop the bomb that you're just like, oh, I cannot believe this is happening.
Dude, we should have another episode just about like just Lost.
We should. I really want, if I ever watch it again, I want to watch chronological Lost. Like somebody took every clip from Lost and put it in chronological order. So you could see like probably 66% of the way through is when the plane crashes. Like that's how much like flashbacks and stuff happen in Lost.
Yeah.
I think that'd be an interesting way to watch it. But
Yeah.
listen, I gotta go to bed, man. This has been a blast. We've covered all our Game of Thrones stuff. There's not really a throne anymore, is there? It's just an iron slag
Nope.
sitting on the floor. Probably gonna be really tough to get off the floor of the throne room. They'll probably just kind of cover it with a blanket and then put a wheelchair ramp up and have Bran. One of the funniest, by the way, the season 8 memes were amazing, and I know you looked at all of them too. But one of the funniest ones was talking about Bran, how Tyrion kept harping on the whole Bran the Broken thing, like awkwardly, and he'd be like, "Bran the Broken," and Bran's like, "Hey, listen, man, if you just want to say Bran, you can just say Bran. That's fine." And Tyrion's like, "Bran the busted up." Okay, actually, Bran is just, he's like, "Bran the wheelie, legs no feely." It's like, he doesn't need a nickname at all. You can just call him Bran. Bran the Broken.
Oh man, it's always good talking to you, man.
Yeah, you too, brother.
Oh, it's always good. All right. Well, hope you all enjoyed.
You know, and I really like these shows where we only do like one topic. I feel like we do like a consummate. We cover every aspect of it, and it's just a self-contained unit. I think that's cool.
Yeah. Well, yeah. It sort of just came organically.
Sure.
I like that. All right. Hope you all enjoyed. Until next time. See you later. All right. Yeah.